Welcome to the Healer Circle, where extraordinary healers share their personal journeys, wisdom, and how to heal yourself. My hope is that their insights, practical tips, and aha moments inspire and guide you in discovering your own spiritual gifts to reach your highest potential. Hi, Kori. I am so delighted to have you join us and share with us what you do and tell us more about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Ingrid. I'm really excited to be talking to you today. I am a healer, an intuitive and shamanic healer. I work specifically with people who are having health challenges. My background is as an RN, and I have had my own physical challenges, so things have just come to a place where these are the best way for me to use my gifts.
Yeah, I just love what you do, and what I saw from your website reminded me back when I went to school 20-something years ago in New York, the Swedish Institute of Health Sciences, and our Eastern medicine teacher was always saying it's actually a good thing when the body is indicating that there's something wrong. That's the way it communicates. And I love that on your website there was a sentence that said, health issues are a wake-up call to realign and come into a right relationship with yourself. I think it's just beautiful, and I so agree with you. Can you tell us more so the listeners would also understand, what do you mean it's a bad thing if something happens to me? What do you mean by that sentence?
Okay, good question. A lot of times we get sirens when we're not paying attention, and there's a big calamity when we're not paying attention to the body and how we treat the body. And I've had my own sirens, and they were definitely wake-up calls. I live with autoimmune disease. There were giant sirens. It took a while to get things manageable. And since then, the ways I go about taking care of my body first, because it is the vehicle for my soul and my spirit, I want it to be functioning at its best. So it involves listening to my body, listening for the warning signs, making sure I'm eating well, sleeping enough, exercising, regardless of the weather. I live on the East Coast, so it's getting cold here, but I have 2 dogs that get me motivated. It really is about keeping joy in our lives. Do we fill the cup? How do we fill the cup? Are we immersing ourselves in nature? I live in a city, so where is nature within the city? I have to pay attention to all of these. And it's an invitation to others when I work with clients. Where do you get your sustenance? Where do you get your spiritual nourishment? And looking at when people are ready, we can't say, this illness or this need for surgery came because of blah, blah, blah. We have to take small steps to introduce the concept. And some people will be ready and some won't. And that's okay. They are just where they are in their growth period.
I believe the amazing thing that you do is when people do go through surgeries, you are there to support them in the process. Can you tell us more? What does that mean? And where does it really begin, you working with people?
It usually depends on how soon the surgery is happening. I do some hands-on healing for helping people deal with anxiety, anticipatory anxiety around the surgery, the what ifs. If I get the call the week of surgery, I focus on, I want to hear what their concerns are. Energetically, I want to clear the procedure room, the operating room, depending on where they're going to be for this surgery or procedure. So when hospitals are built, they're beautiful, empty things. And over the years, many, many, many people go through the doors. Some leave through the doors, some leave through other doors. And soul fragments and organ soul fragments can be left behind in the operating room.
Mm-hmm.
Soul loss happens when the precious part of ourselves needs to be protected, and it fractures off, it goes away, and the rest of the body and the soul that's left continue. The operating rooms tend to be really full of these spirit and soul parts.
Right.
So my approach is to go in the night before surgery and clear the surgery room, the operating room, of all these soul parts, and bring the room into present time and set the vibration for clarity so that the practitioners are clear and focused, that there's permission for healing.
That's amazing, because I don't think I've actually heard someone do this before. So when I was connected to you, I'm like, oh my God, I think everyone should know about this, because it's just such an important aspect. Often it's just like, go and do, and then there's like all that stress, and like you're saying, there's so much else there energy wise, that if you're then going into something else that's packed with so many other people's issues, it's like, you know, how well, of course everybody does their best, but if you could just clear the space, if you can just make that as clean and pure and for everyone to be present, are there any stories that you could share for the other listeners, in the sense like, I don't get it. Like, what's the difference if I'm, you know, doing this, you know, like everybody else does, or if I have guidance from Korie to support, like what can be different in that process?
Sure. Let me go into the day of surgery. So when the person goes into the operating room, I like to have someone texting me just saying they're going in now. I will follow their spirit. About 35 years ago, I spent some time in the operating room just observing what happens to the soul during anesthesia, while the body is under anesthesia.
Yeah. What happens?
So the spirit goes out and the body is breathed, and the soul goes to a garden, and they meet their ancestors and their loved ones who have died, and animals that they have loved.
Wow.
Join them. And there is stuff that happens there. There are conversations. There is exploring. There's one young boy had multiple ear surgeries that I followed, and I would talk to him before going into surgery. I said, I'm going to go with you, and I'll, you know, tell your grandma what's happening.
The physical him or the spiritual him?
Physical him first, and then him, because I wanted his permission.
Yeah, of course.
And then gave the notes to grandma, because I dictate what I'm seeing as I go along. And then she read it to him, and he said, yep, that's what I saw. That's what I was doing. And as he got older, he didn't want to hear it so much because he was farther away from that ability to remember, but he wanted me to do it each time. So I watched the spirit go out, and so I'm tracking in two different areas. I'm tracking in the operating room, making sure that the room is grounded and everything's going smoothly, no energy's coming in, and I'm also following the soul in the garden. The first time I experienced this, I'll tell you a short story. The man was having brain surgery. I was observing, and I wouldn't be able to be there for the whole time. It was going to be a 9-hour surgery. I was there for 4 hours. And someone started playing checkers with him, but the other person was behind a curtain, sort of like the Wizard of Oz. So I was watching, and I was saying, you know, I've cleaned out the room, you know, I've grounded the room, and I've got to leave now. And the curtain pulls back, and it's Jesus behind there. And he said, I think I've got things handled. So I knew I could trust the process. Okay. You know? I knew whether the person believed in Jesus or not, there was an archetypal being there holding the space with him.
Yeah.
And that was permission for me to leave, that this would go on and happen the way this gentleman needed it to happen. But
Yeah.
I had the permission to observe.
Yeah.
And so now, when I follow someone on day of surgery, I talk with the ancestors. They often have messages for the individual that I record and send to them after the surgery.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah.
And from your experience of doing this, how long have you been doing this?
It's really come together in about the probably 10 plus years, but really focusing in on it the last 4 or 5.
Yeah. And from all the journeys and the healing and the giving them, being the support to create that space there for them, are there ever times where you just get the message saying that, well, thank you for being and doing all this stuff, but it's not the place for you to, I mean, I guess you can always give the healing and create the space, right? But like, do you get the message like this surgery is not going to be the way that the humans might want it to be, or?
I haven't.
Good. Good.
Yeah. Sometimes people can't relate to the imagery that I'm getting because their belief systems may be different, but they find their fear is decreased.
Yeah.
So overall that fear quotient pretty much drops.
Yeah. What is the main fear people going into the surgery?
Say that again.
What is the main fear? Because you said when you have, you talk to them just to make sure that before they even go into the surgery that they might have fears and, cleansing, all those things. What is the main fear that people seem to have?
I think the bottom line is they worry about their survival. It's that first chakra. Am I going to live or die? Sometimes I'm dealing with open heart patients, sometimes cancer. They're having mastectomies, they're having lungectomy, they're having a part of their lung taken out because they have a tumor. So they're really looking at their survival stuff. They're looking at, was I a good person? Did I live my life right? Did I miss opportunities? So my message of what I experience doing this work is there is so much love that surrounds us and is waiting to be bestowed upon us and communicated to us, that all our fears get to dissipate if we can open to that.
Yeah. And even the ones like I had a client who's like, but everyone around me, everybody I love has passed away. Like, how do I, I feel so lonely. How do you tell them that you're still lonely? You still have the ancestors, you still have, guides, and like, what do you tell them?
It's so much about permission for them to be where they are. I know about the radiance of the universe. I know about the love that's there. I've had near-death experiences. So I carry that permission level. And just for the person to get through surgery is sometimes enough. They may continue to have the anxiety they have, but in the moments that I'm working with them, they find peace.
Yeah. Would you say that because they go into the surgery with more calm and peace, that actually helps the body kind of go through the surgery and it helps itself heal through the process? I
really believe that. Really believe that. The majority of my clients say, I had less fear. The doctors were surprised at how little pain medicine I needed and how quick my recovery was.
Exactly. Yeah, I've seen that also when I've done like even remote Reiki work to somebody like who had surgery. They're like, doctors are surprised. How come I'm recovering so fast? It's like, well, this is something that you can't really explain and put a finger on. But if they're open to it, it's it's fantastic.
It is.
So you do get a feedback from the clients afterwards saying, I think this did go, like you're saying, easier. The doctors might be surprised. And, so there's that proof for the humans to this stuff works. We're just not making things up.
Right, right. And one client in particular, when she wrote a testimonial, said, now I understand my life path better because I understand why I created this, why I needed the surgery, and what gift it brought me. So, that's unique.
Dive a little bit more into this because this is giving me chills. Just what you just said gives me chills. And could you share? Because a lot of people are like, "What do you mean? I would never want to have an health issue. Like I didn't bring this on." And there's just, but whenever you're talking about, I think majority of people who have gone through some really horrible life situations, and now when they are through it, most of them say they wouldn't change it because it was beneficial. They needed to adjust their life because otherwise they would have, lived dead, keep a living life, but, not really living. How can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Let's see if you can rephrase the question.
Yes, please. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So really kind of like when people are witnessing that there's something wrong with my, physically wrong with me, and or I need to do a surgery, and like, why is this happening to me versus like, oh, maybe there's something for me actually.
That's the great point. There are three ways to look at things. I think this is happening to me, this is happening for me, and this is happening through me.
Yeah.
And happening to me is the lower three chakras, first, second, third, deals with survival, real basic being on the planet stuff. Yeah, this is an assault. And it is. And we get to choose how we respond. I think that is the biggest piece of power we have. And it may take us a while to get there, years, decades, 15 minutes, depending on the situation. But when it's happening for us, it gives us the opportunity to grow. When it happens through us, we are bringing in an experience that will expand our consciousness, our place on the planet, and our spiritual journey.
Do you think there is a way for us to, I don't know if it's a preempt or like such that we don't end up in needing a surgery? It's like when my dad passed of stage 4 cancer, and I asked him in the end, it's like, Dad, do you know what you need to do? He's like, yeah. I said, what? Let's do it. He's like, well, I need to let go. Like he really had to let go of all the guilt of, I'm not going to name the whole list of things, but basically, but he couldn't do it. And I realized that he has chosen one of the worst ways to die that makes him suffer because he felt like he deserves that suffering for what he did. And I do believe if he could have let go, that's where the healing would have started. But he was just like, I can't, like, I deserve this. So do you feel like, or do you know anything about if we could live in a way where things are happening more for us or through us, therefore, if we're accepting it and going with it, we're more likely not getting to the point where we're dying prematurely because our body is like, I've been trying to communicate with you, you're not listening. And it just gets worse and worse, trying to wake us up. And if we're just not paying attention, we're like, oh, that's fine, I'll suffer through, I don't have time. At some point, it's like, okay, I'm going to make you like, seriously stop everything because you're not paying attention. So I guess my question is like, can we do something to not end up at these really bad, horrible situations?
I think we're doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Every time we make a decision to make a better food choice.
Yeah.
Where we decide we will walk, park the car a little farther away. When we acknowledge our vulnerability, our inability to control, our willingness to be open, a willingness to tell ourselves the truth about events in our lives. I think we're doing it all the time. Yeah. And I think there's several things, the should, would, could trio, that when we get caught in those, we're never living up to our expectation.
Yeah.
So there is always disappointment. So if we can divorce ourselves with compassion from those three, guilt is a mindset. It's not a human emotion. It's a thought process. I did this, therefore this. Unfortunately, there are institutions that instill that. And we're in the long, slow process of separating from those institutions. But it's pretty rampant in our culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't live up to expectation of how we look, how we feel, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
so self-compassion is always the starting place. How do I hold myself with compassion? Because I can't hold somebody else with compassion until I'm holding myself.
Right. Even little things that I started to like a few years ago, like consciously telling myself as soon as I like even simple things like I went to get something from the closet, I took a wrong thing, like, oh, stupid. Oh, I'm like, no. My body's listening to me. Nice. Change it out. Not stupid. Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, but just like consciously paying attention, the way you talk to yourself, the things you say about yourself, even as a joke. It's not a joke. Don't say mean things to yourself or anyone else.
That's really the beginning where you start making the changes, and it has a ripple out effect. Yes, absolutely.
Now, for the listeners, and if we could just roll back in time, we can. But if we could, what kind of advice would you give to yourself? Like whenever, like more towards the beginning of your journey, what could you tell yourself? Like, oh, that could be useful, or that could have been.
I love that question. You gave it to me ahead of time, so I wrote a little something about it that I'd like to read.
Oh, please.
Dearest Kori, hang in there. All the struggle, seeming monotony and burnout eventually bring you to a deep understanding of and deep compassion for the human condition. It will eventually shape your worldview and your sense of humanity. You will not miss the opportunity to share your gifts. You are in the process of fulfilling your dream, of being the visionary and healer you know yourself to be. Learning, invest in gratitude, immerse yourself in nature, know and learn from animals, create community, believe in yourself, you precious being.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing it with us and with everyone who's listening. This is lovely.
We can talk to ourselves that way and hold ourselves that way. The world can be a very different place than where we are right now. That is my hope and vision for the world.
And I almost feel like the way you took this to the whole into different depths, I would almost love to welcome everyone who's listening to write down that message to themselves.
Yes.
And I hope, and because like listening to your message to yourself, there's so much love and compassion and the support and everything in a positive way, because we could not have known all of this when we were younger, but we can now go back and give that advice to ourselves when we're there. And now also take ourselves into the future. Okay, well, I'm now 60 years from now, or when I'm on my deathbed, like, what would I tell myself now? Why not to put that into action now versus I'm here in my busy world and everything else. And it's, look backward and look forwards, coming back and help yourself to be kind and do all those things. So,
there is a beautiful part of ourselves that a friend of mine and mentor calls our wise future self.
Yes.
And what would she say to you?
Yes.
That's what she would say to me.
Exactly. Oh, do you mind also sharing? Because I often ask healers, because someone once told me, well, Ingrid, if you're a healer, like, why do you need, like, why aren't you perfect kind of thing? Like, I'm like, healers need healing too. So, so my question to you is, do you share, can you share any tips that have been useful to you, that others can also, or like, what do you do to take care of yourself or go to someone to heal you?
Sure. So, a few things. And I love that you sent me questions ahead that I could just write out and spend some time with. So when I face challenges, when I'm muddled or confused, my first thing is to return to center.
Yeah.
The real basic stuff. I offer gratitude. One of my mentors, said gratitude is everything. You give gratitude first. Even if you don't feel grateful for what's happening, I know I'm going to learn from this situation. I know that there are gifts in it, and I'm giving gratitude. So coming back to center, giving gratitude for what I have. Great native person who said, if you can't find anything to be grateful for, know that the problem lies within yourself.
Very nicely said. Yep. Yep.
So,
Looking word.
I ask my allies and guides, my spirit animals, for help. I draw tarot cards, intuition cards, for inspiration. And I ask the question, what do I need to know right now?
Yeah.
They never disappoint, the cards or the allies. I always get help. I always find a direction, and I find the seed that I can bring up and remember who I am. Because that's one of the catchphrases on my website is recognize your starlight, remember who you are.
Oh,
and we always have to go back to our beginnings, our origin, this place of origin.
could you share, like, remembering who you are to the people who are awakening now and they're like, I think I'm curious about the spiritual world. I don't know yet what it is. I think I felt, experienced something things, but I don't know. What would you suggest to these people who are just on the first steps of their journey? How do they remember who they are?
Right, it's a good question. First of all, it's safe to explore.
Great.
That is the first and most important thing. It's safe. It's full of love. It's full of humor, and it's full of play, joy. You can meet ecstasy. You can experience ecstasy. It is possible. It's important to find a teacher you feel safe with. Before you looking for a teacher, start with gratitude. Go through your day. Look around your room. What things, what objects, what parts of your life are you grateful for? Start a gratitude process. You may have a pet that you love, an animal companion. You may have someone who loves you and you're not quite sure why they love you so much. Give gratitude to them. If there's a tree that catches your eye every time you're walking, give gratitude to that tree. Say hello to it. Acknowledge its spirit. Start acknowledging the life force that exists in everything. The stones. It's everywhere. Life is everywhere. Engage with it, embrace it, bring it in.
Yeah. And like you said, just explore and be brave to explore.
Follow curiosity. A lot of people have curiosity about their spirit allies. I want to meet my spirit ally. Okay, it's possible. And that's one of the many things I do is be a guide for people, taking them through the steps to meet their allies, to meet their power animals, to meet their teachers, and learning the language that they speak in and work within. Some people see things in angel form. Some people see things in animal form. Some people are not from this planet and have other connections. So giving permission to explore. Just go for it.
That is really, really good, I think, for encouraging the ones who are kind of like, where do I go from here? And I love what you said, it's safe, because I've had some people who are like, well, I don't know. But then if I leave, like if I take that leap, if I take that step, then I'm leaving my whole world that I've known so far. And they're just afraid to go there because they're like, I don't know what's coming. So any tips for the ones who are like, they're there, and I'm in some ways like, can you really stop it? I guess you can, but in some ways, like, isn't it going to catch up? Like for me, it's like 20 years ago when I went through the massage school first, and then I experienced the energy. I'm like, oh my God, this world is so big. It's going to take me a lifetime. I'm not even going to do it. And then, of course, 10 years later, it's still going to come from some window or door, and I couldn't escape it regardless. So what's your thinking regarding, like, if you're afraid to do it, can you escape it? Can you shut it down? Is there a need to shut it down?
You can shut it down. And I think that's where health challenges come in. And I think when we invalidate what we are being called to do, causes crises in our lives, because we're not opening to source. We're not opening to the flow. We're running against the river. Ralph Blum, who wrote introduced the runes to the West, the Nordic runes to the West, said you can't push the river, you cannot pull the shoots out of the ground. Mm-hmm. You know, we can try to stomp on the sprouts that are coming up. We can try to divert the water. There's always a cost.
Yeah.
So it will get our attention, and we may need to come back several times in lifetimes till we get that message that, yes, we're meant to do this. We're meant to be spiritual beings in a human experience. You know?
So could you leave people with that little bit of encouragement of like, don't wait for lifetimes. If you're really kind of exploring that path, there's a reason it's coming to you. Like, could you give them some sort of like a safety feeling, like, okay, maybe I will, explore it further?
Yeah, I guess I would say, it's safe. Find a practitioner who can give you some guardrails, some bumpers. If you're afraid, many times people have had past life experiences that bleed through into the current life, where they didn't have a good experience about embracing the spiritual life, or by becoming energy healers at a time where it was really dangerous to be a healer. Mm-hmm. The planet right now, in its current course, in its current state, is calling on each of us to step into our power and to step into our healing ability. Yeah. So for you who are out there saying, I want to do it, but I don't know how, close your eyes, take a deep breath, say hello to yourself as spirit in a body. You are a magical being. You have gifts to give, and we are waiting for you. We are on the edge of your seat, waiting for you to embrace your gift so we can all share in the radiance of who you are.
Oh, Korie, this is such a beautiful way to finish this little chat with each other. And I want to make sure that we'll get the links how people can reach out to you. But let me ask you this one last question. People who are not physically in your zip code for you to heal, can you still do this work for them remotely as well?
Do this work only remotely at this point. Because of my own health issues post-pandemic, I need to work remotely.
Absolutely.
So, yes, I am available.
Yeah, so regardless of the zip code or country, whatnot, Korie could be there.
Yes, I am here for you.
Wonderful. And we'll add the links and ways to reach Korie. But Korie, I'm so grateful for you for taking the time to have a chat with me today. Thank you so much.
A delight. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this Healer Circle journey. If you are a healer, with valuable insights to share, we'd love to hear from you. As together, we can continue to inspire one another to greater heights. Till we meet again, I'm sending you love, light, and gratitude.